Hello, it's Jim from JetsonHacks.com, where we are all about developing for the NVIDIA Jetson developer kits. We will be running the Jetson without a graphical user interface and simply interfacing with the Nano over a network connection using SSH. Many edge computing applications do not require a monitor, keyboard, and mouse. In earlier versions of Jetpack, there was a requirement for the Jetson Nano to be connected to a monitor and keyboard for initial setup. With the latest release of Jetpack, which is 4.2.1, we can simply use a USB cable to connect to the Jetson and set up the Nano from our host machine. We use the host machine to flash our micro SD card and configure the Jetson. People typically refer to these as a PC or a laptop. The host can be a Linux, Windows, or a Macintosh machine. There's a script named OEM-config that runs on the Jetson the first time it boots. If there is a monitor and keyboard connected to the Jetson, the script will walk you through a number of steps which will configure the system as a desktop graphical user environment. We call this a GUI. GUI. It's fun to say. However, if there is no monitor attached on the first boot, OEM-config can set up the Jetson Nano in a minimal configuration without a desktop graphical environment. You will be able to interface with the Jetson using a network connection. In order to set the Jetson up in headless mode, you will need to attach a USB cable to the micro USB port on the Jetson and connect the other end to your host computer. Also, you need to power the Jetson from the barrel jack. Don't forget the J48 jumper. We've done a video before on how to do that. I will leave a link in the description below. We will wait until setup time to power up the Jetson. We will go over 3 examples. The first example will set up the Jetson Nano for access from an existing wireless network using an Ubuntu host. The next example will set up the Jetson for access over a wired Ethernet connection, again from an Ubuntu host. And finally, we will set up the Jetson Nano for access from a wired Ethernet connection, this time set up from a Windows machine. The first step is to prepare a SD card image for the Jetson Nano. We will use Etcher to flash our SD card. We are on a host machine that's running Ubuntu, so let's download for Linux x64. Etcher also runs on the Mac and Windows. Let's save it in this folder. Downloading. And let's go open that folder up. Let's extract our little friend. And we can get rid of this. Let's go grab the SD card image that we are going to flash. We can grab this from a couple of places. We can grab it from the Jetpack page, or you can get it from the Jetson Download Center. You may need to log into your Jetson developer account to access these files. It's free to sign up and use. Since we are here, we will download the SD card image. Let's save it here. It says it will take about a half hour to download. Download complete. Before we leave the Jetson Download Center, let's grab the L4T documentation. It's down here a little ways. We are looking for the latest version. And let's download it. Let's extract the documentation. And here's the start page. We are now ready to flash the SD card. Let's insert the SD card into the host. This card has an older version of L4T on it. Start up Etcher. It says select image. We will use the image we just downloaded. We can leave it in this zip format. Etcher understands that.
Select target.
Here it is. Continue.
Flash.
I've been working on this 45 minutes. Are you sure you want to do this?
Continue.
Password. This will take a while, about 45 minutes or so. Flash complete. Now we are ready to set up our Jetson. We have opened up the L4T documentation that we downloaded earlier. We go to the section, Reconfiguring a Jetson device with OEM-config. Let's plug in our USB cable. It's micro USB on one side, and it's a Type A connector on the other. We plug the micro USB side into the Jetson, and the USB-A side into the host. Make sure you are using a USB cable that has data capabilities. Let's insert our SD card into the Jetson. In this example, we will set up the Jetson to run headlessly over an existing Wi-Fi network. We have already installed the Wi-Fi card. I'll leave a link in the description below on how to install the card. Let's open up a terminal. We are going to use an application called Screen for our serial terminal interface. Screen also runs on the Macintosh. In a later example, I will show you how to use PuTTY on Windows to set up your Jetson. Let's install Screen. On a Linux machine, the Jetson will present itself as a TTY ACM device in /dev. On a Macintosh, it will be tty.usb modem, also in the /dev directory. And on a Windows machine, it will be a COM port. Let's take a look at our /dev directory. The Jetson is not yet powered up, but we see that there is another device attached to our host. I happen to know that this device is a fingerprint reader on this laptop. Let's plug the power into the barrel jack of the Jetson. The Jetson will mount to this window, the L4T README. And let's take a gander at it again. There it is, /dev/tty-acm1. We are ready to connect to the Jetson. And we want to connect at 115.200. And we are greeted with the licensing threats. Important notice, read carefully. Oh my. Oh, recitals. Maybe there's a piano. Limitations, grant of licenses. Oh my. I will just accept my fate. My fate is sealed. Tab. Okay. Choose the language. I'll take English. Tab and then OK. Select your location. It's a country, territory, or area. United States. Tab. OK. Select your time zone. I'll pick Pacific. Tab. OK. Is the clock set to UTC? Yes. Please enter the real name of this user. Ha! I'm not falling for that. Full name for the new user. JetsonHacks. Tab. OK. Username for your account? I will say JetsonHacks. Tab. OK. Choose a password. How about this? Tab. OK.
Re-enter password to verify.
Tab. OK.
You entered a password that consists of less than 8 characters, which is considered too weak. Use a weak password.
Yes, please. Here's where we select our network access. We are going to use WLAN, wireless Ethernet. Tab, OK. We select the network we want to use. Kanga is our guest network. Kanga, tab, OK. It has security on it, so it's one of these little rascals. Tab, OK. Enter the password, then hit OK. Please enter the host name for this system. It's a single word. And we need to consult our network administrator. Nope, I'm going to make something up. How about Nano King? Tab, OK. Now the Nano will reboot. The Nano takes about 30 seconds to reboot. Now we should be able to SSH into it. The second pro tip, you want to be on the same wireless network as the Nano when you try to connect to it. So let's check that out. Kanga. Let's connect to the Jetson one more time over the USB cable to figure out what the wireless IP address is. Here's a nice little message. This system has been minimized by removing packages and content that are not required on a system that users do not log into. You can restore the content by running the unminimize command. Let's get the Jetson IP address, ifconfig. We are looking for WLAN 0. Now let's SSH into the Nano. SSH, our account name, at the IP address.
Warning, remote host identification has changed.
It is possible that someone is doing something nasty. Well, I think we already know that. There's always someone doing something nasty. Basically what this is telling us is that the SSH key has changed for the Jetson. I have connected the Jetson to this machine before. So let's fix that. Thankfully, they provide the fix here. Let's do that. We will copy and paste this. That appears to make it somewhat happier. Let's try to SSH into it again.
The authenticity of the host cannot be established.
Are you sure you want to continue connecting? Yes, please. Password. We'll type in my weak password. So we are now connected to the Jetson over wireless. Let's get rid of the USB connection. Let's unplug the USB cable. And we should still have our wireless connection. We're in like Flynn. For our second example, let's set the Jetson Nano up to run over a wired Ethernet connection. Let's unplug our Jetson and remove the SD card. As before, we use Etcher to flash a new Jetson image. We insert the SD card into the host. These files are from the previous flash. And as before, we select the target and flash. Flash complete. Let's put our SD card into the Nano and plug in the Ethernet cable to the Jetson. The other end of the Ethernet cable is hooked up to a router. The Jetson is on the same network as our host. Let's reconnect the USB cable from the host to the Jetson and plug the power into the Jetson. The Jetson will boot. Takes about 30 to 45 seconds. The L4T README window opens up here. Again, we use the screen app. And we're back to licensing hell. They had to write an addendum to Dante's Inferno when EULAs came out. It's called Hell, the Ultimate Level. You may have to hit the escape key a couple of times to get things going. We'll go through this until we get to the network setup part. This time, instead of using the wireless connection, we will set it up for Ethernet. Tab and then OK. And now we set up the host name. Still not talking to my network administrator. I'm just going to call it Nano Queen. Tab and then OK. It then sets up the system, takes about 45 seconds. And then the Jetson reboots. Let's connect to the Jetson over USB and figure out what its IP address is. We'll enter our account name and then our weak password. As before, we use ifconfig to look up our IP address. It's under ETH0 and in our case 10.0.1.21. Let's open up another terminal and SSH into the Jetson.
Warning, remote host identification has changed.
Oh my, it is possible that someone is doing something nasty. In this case, we are the nasty doers. So let's fix this up like we did last time. And let's try SSH again. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? Yes, please. I enter my weak password. As before, we are running a minimized system at this point over SSH and our Ethernet cable. For our last example, we are going to do the same Ethernet setup on a Windows 10 machine. Before leaving the Ubuntu machine, I will create a new SD card image. Let's remove power from the Jetson, and then we will switch over to the Windows machine. Okay, I'm over here on the Windows machine. I have just flashed another SD card. Let's open up Device Manager. In the View menu, let's show hidden devices. We are interested in ports. Now let's power on the Jetson Nano. Make sure that the USB cable is connected to the Jetson and the host. Insert the SD card. Make sure that the Ethernet is connected to the Jetson. And plug in the power cable. We can see that the Nano showed up as a USB serial device on COM4. Now we can interface to the Jetson using the serial interface application, PuTTY. You can download PuTTY from putty.org for Windows or Linux. Let's open up PuTTY. This is similar to what we did with Ubuntu. Let's switch over to serial. We know the Nano is on COM4. Our speed is 1015/200. And open. Oh, look, a licensing party. Oh boy. These are the same steps as the Ubuntu setup. Our network access will be over Ethernet. Okay. I think my eyes are starting to bleed. I've seen too many license agreements today. Tab and then OK. Choose our language. English, English. Sounds like a name for a band. Select your location. Tab, OK. Where are you? Pacific. Tab, OK. And UTC, yes. Please enter the real name of this user. Ha, I'm not falling for this. JetsonHacks. Tab and then OK. Username for the new account. JetsonHacks. Tab and then OK. Choose a password. I will go with my standard weak password. Tab and then OK. Let's re-enter the password. Tab and then OK.
You entered a password that consists of less than 8 characters, which is considered too weak.
Use weak password? Yes, please. And we use ETH0, which is Ethernet. Tab, then OK. Please enter the host name for this system. Let's call it Nano Prince. Tab, then OK. It takes about 45 seconds to set up. After the setup, the Jetson Nano will reboot. The PuTTY fatal error. Let's close PuTTY and start it again. Let's figure out what the IP address of the Jetson is. Let's grab that from our USB connection. Serial COM4 115.200. Open. We enter our account name and then our weak password. And then ifconfig to get our ETH0 IP address. It is 10.0.1.21. Let's close this session. And now we can use PuTTY to SSH into the Jetson. Let's start PuTTY up again. We enter the IP address of the Jetson here. And then open.
PuTTY security alert.
You have no guarantee that the server is the computer that you think it is. Yes, to add the key, please. Log in as JetsonHacks. Weak password. And we're in. We can unplug our USB cable. We aren't using that anymore. And we are still connected. That should get you started for the headless setup of the Jetson Nano. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe. Thanks for watching.